How did Britain's darkest moments in the sky redefine our flight tomorrow? Witness the 10 most catastrophic plane crashes on British soil. Stories where tragedy sparks a relentless pursuit of the unbreakable safety barrier. On November 4, 1967, a quiet, cold autumn night was suddenly disturbed. Iberia Flight 062, which started its journey in Malaga, Spain, ended tragically on Blackdown Hill, West Sussex. The aircraft, a Sud Aviation SE-210 Caravelle 10R, was barely a year and a half into service, yet it became a tomb for the 37 souls aboard. The flight was heading from the Mediterranean coast to London. As it got closer to its destination, something went terribly wrong. The pilots read the altimeters wrong and led the aircraft into a fatal descent, resulting in a terrible crash on Blackdown Hill. The investigation later showed that this tragic error was due to a misunderstanding of the flight instruments. The scene at Blackdown Hill was a stark reminder of the event's suddenness and severity. Amongst the remains of the aircraft, the narrative of Flight 062 was pieced together, a narrative that underscored the risks of flying and the tragic consequences of a single mistake. On October 20, 1948, a catastrophic event unfolded near Glasgow. The KLM Royal Dutch Airlines Lockheed, on a scheduled flight from Amsterdam to New York with a stop in Glasgow, met with disaster just before its scheduled landing. This tragic accident resulted in the loss of all 40 individuals on board, including crew and passengers. The aircraft, renowned for its long-range capabilities, was navigating from Amsterdam Schiphol International Airport to Glasgow Prestwick Airport. The Lockheed Constellation, named Nijmegen, was a testament to mid-20th century aviation engineering. Approaching Glasgow, the aircraft attempted an unconventional visual approach to runway 26 after overshooting runway 32. During this maneuver, at an altitude of only 440 feet, it tragically collided with high-tension cables, leading to an immediate and fatal crash. The investigation concluded that a series of misjudgments during the landing approach, including flying too long on the downwind leg and misestimating the weather conditions, were key factors. On November 15, 1957, another disaster unfolded when an Aquila Airways Solent 3 crashed near Chesil Down on its journey from Southampton to Lisbon, Portugal. This heartbreaking incident claimed the lives of 45 individuals, including passengers and crew members, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and lessons to be learned. The Solent 3 was on its international route from the waters of Southampton in the United Kingdom to the Lisbon Cabo Ruivo seaplane base in Portugal. Shortly after takeoff, the aircraft faced a dire emergency. The crew struggled with the malfunctioning of its number 4 propeller, a critical situation that led them to attempt a return. Tragically, their efforts ended in vain as the plane met its fate in a quarry situated between Chesil and Brook. The subsequent investigation shed light on the devastating cause: the halting of 2 engines, likely due to fuel starvation or the inadvertent engagement of the engine cutoff switch. January 8, 1989, marks the date of the Kegworth Air Disaster. A British Midland Airways Boeing 737 met with catastrophe near Kegworth while attempting an emergency landing. The disaster claimed the lives of 47 passengers, while the rescue efforts saw many survivors pulled from the wreckage. The flight, heading from London Heathrow to Belfast, faced an unprecedented mid-flight crisis. The Boeing 737, a relatively new addition to the fleet, encountered severe engine issues. The flight crew, experiencing vibrations and smells of fire, mistakenly shut down the functioning engine. This error, compounded by the loss of power in the other engine, forced the aircraft to attempt an emergency landing. Investigations revealed that the crew's misjudgment in identifying the troubled engine was the primary cause. In the early hours of January 5, 1969, a tragedy unfolded when Ariana Afghan Airlines Flight 701, flying from Frankfurt to London Gatwick, crashed just short of its destination. This devastating incident claimed the lives of 48 people, including both passengers and crew members, leaving a lasting mark on aviation history. The aircraft, a Boeing 727, barely a year into service, encountered an unforeseen challenge. Freezing fog enveloped the approach path, a perilous condition that obscures vision and complicates landing. As it neared Gatwick, the aircraft tragically descended below the intended path that planes follow when landing, known as the glide slope. Unaware of this critical deviation, the pilots found themselves unable to adjust their course in time, resulting in the aircraft colliding with ground obstacles before the fatal crash. The investigation pinpointed the descent below the glide slope, due to the pilot's misjudgment under the veil of poor visibility, as the primary cause. On August 22, 1985, Manchester International Airport became the scene of a harrowing disaster. British Air Tour's Flight 328, destined for Corfu, was engulfed in flames during an attempted takeoff, resulting in the tragic loss of 55 lives. The plane, a Boeing 737, was just beginning its journey. Moments after the takeoff roll commenced, an uncontained engine failure, a catastrophic event where engine components breached their casing, triggered a dire emergency. A loud bang echoed on the runway, followed by flames erupting from the engine. Despite the crew's swift decision to abort the takeoff, the fire and smoke rapidly consumed the aircraft, leading to unimaginable loss. Subsequent investigations pinpointed a faulty repair as the underlying cause of the engine failure. This disaster underscored the paramount importance of diligent engine maintenance and highlighted how quickly a critical situation can deteriorate in aviation. On June 4, 1967, the community of Stockport was forever changed by a devastating accident. A British Midland Airways charter flight, returning from Palma de Mallorca to Manchester, met with tragedy, claiming 72 lives. The aircraft, a Canadair C-4 Argonaut known for its durability, was on its final approach to Manchester International Airport. However, as it neared its destination, the plane suffered a catastrophic loss of power in 2 engines on one wing. This dire malfunction caused the plane to lose altitude rapidly, and it crashed into a residential area of Stockport, bringing unimaginable sorrow to the community and beyond. The subsequent investigation shed light on a harrowing sequence of events. The crash was likely the result of fuel starvation, a situation where the engines are deprived of fuel, leading to a loss of power. Compounding this issue was the possible misidentification of the malfunctioning engine by the crew, a critical error in the heat of the moment. March 12, 1950, brought one of the most tragic air disasters of the era near Lando. The flight was returning from Dublin to Lando and experienced a catastrophic crash during its final approach. This harrowing incident claimed the lives of 80 individuals, marking it as one of the deadliest air disasters of the time. The aircraft involved, an Avro 689 Tudor 5, was returning from Dublin with spectators who had attended a rugby match, a journey that ended in unforeseen tragedy. As the aircraft approached Lando's runway, it faced difficulties. Attempting to correct an undershoot, which occurs when the airplane falls short of an expected landing point, the pilots applied full throttle of the engines, which caused the Tudor to climb steeply, stall, and then crash devastatingly into a nearby field. The investigation into the disaster revealed a critical loading error that resulted in an imbalanced center of gravity, far beyond the aircraft's safe operational limits. On June 18, 1972, the skies near Staines were the site of a tragedy that would mark one of the darkest chapters in British aviation history. British European Airways Flight 548, bound for Brussels from London, ended in catastrophe mere minutes after takeoff, claiming the lives of all 118 souls on board. Flight 548 was operated by a Trident 1C, a leading aircraft for short to medium haul flights during that period. During its ascent, the Trident faced a dire sequence of failures that sealed its fate. A critical error occurred with the premature retraction of the leading-edge devices, essential components that ensure the aircraft's lift during takeoff. This misstep thrust the aircraft into a deep stall, a condition from which recovery was impossible at such a low altitude. The exhaustive investigation that followed shed light on a confluence of factors that led to the tragedy. Beyond the initial error with the leading-edge devices, it was found that the aircraft's airspeed was not adequately monitored, and there was a crucial lapse in managing the plane's configuration. On December 21, 1988, a horrific act of terrorism shook the world. The bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland. The Boeing 747, en route from London to New York and known as Clipper Maid of the Seas, was destroyed mid-air by a terrorist bomb, claiming the lives of all 259 people on board and 11 residents on the ground. The flight had reached its cruising altitude when an explosion tore through its forward cargo hold, resulting from a bomb hidden within a suitcase. The aircraft broke apart in the skies, raining debris over Lockerbie. The downing of Pan Am Flight 103 was the subject of a lengthy investigation. A joint effort by the Dumfries and Galloway Constabulary and the FBI led to charges against Abdel Basit Ali Al-Megrahi, an officer of Libyan intelligence, and Lamin Khalifa Fima in 1991. Following extensive negotiations, the suspects were handed over in 1999. In 2001, Al-Megrahi was convicted and sentenced, while Fima was acquitted. Despite these findings, an Iranian ex-spy's claim in 2014 suggested Iran's involvement, which was quickly denied by the Iranian Foreign Ministry. This complex web of investigations and accusations highlights the challenges in unraveling the threads of international terrorism and underscores the devastating consequences of such acts on global aviation. The bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 remains a poignant reminder of the ongoing vigilance required in the face of threats to aviation security.